After cheating on Adam Eve, it would have been highly satisfying for Rex Glow to get a taste of his own medicine. But not in this way. I draw the line at grooming and pedophilia. But it's not pedophilia, Kate insists. If you tally up the time she and her copies have lived, she and Immortal are roughly the same age. Bullshit. You can tell that by her tone, but also by simple logic. For one thing, Dupli-Kate is not multi-pol. She barely makes any clones when she fights. If she was telling the truth, she would have been more mathematically accurate. She would have said she was anywhere between 20 to 80 years older than her physical age. Instead, she desperately tries to justify her attraction to an obscenely older man by saying she's almost 3,000 years old, which, by the way, does not make her sound 3,000 years old. It makes her sound like a 15-year-old who thinks she should be dating a 30-year-old because she's mature for her age. But as Sloan and Stowe would say, being mature for your age doesn't change your age. If you haven't seen Sloane's video on Pretty Little Liars, please do so immediately because this video was heavily inspired by it. For those of you who don't know, Pretty Little Liars is a teen drama that glorifies grooming, underage relationships, and severe power imbalances. Horrifyingly, Amazon's Invincible is now following in Pretty Little Liars' footsteps so well it may as well have been directly inspired by it. The three relationships I will discuss will be Dupli-Kate and Immortal, Nolan and Debbie, and Nolan and Andressa. First, Dupli-Kate and Immortal. Dupli-Kate's age is never really specified, probably because the writers are reluctant to admit that she was probably no older than 19 when she first had sex with Immortal. She's fresh from the teen team, for God's sake. I highly doubt she was older than 20. We first hear about their so-called relationship when Rex goes into the shower and asks her to kiss his boo-boos. Kate emerges and calls him out for being inappropriate. And then it's revealed she's fucking their leader. If only that hypocrisy was the worst thing about this situation. The Immortal emerges, and an appalled Rex calls him a geriatric hypocrite. Immortal coldly informs him that this is none of his business. Yeah, the newly reinstated leader of the Guardians of the Globe is grooming his teenage subordinate, but that's not anyone's business. Later in the episode, after Kate bullshits her age to Rex, she says that the real reason she quote-unquote connected to Immortal is because he's the only one who knows what it's like to die as many times as Kate. He understands. Again, bullshit. Remember, Immortal was newly reinstated as the Guardians' leader. He was probably their leader for no more than a month before he fucked Dupli-Kate in the shower. If this so-called relationship was about Immortal and Kate being kindred spirits, why wasn't Immortal mindful of Kate's age and his position of power over her? Why not take time to build up this healthy emotional connection Kate is so determined exists between them? Why jump to shower sex so soon? Because this is not about healthy emotional connection. It's about toxic validation. Listen to how self-righteous Immortal sounds when he tells Rex this is none of his business. He knows it's creepy and obscene, and he knows Kate is lying about her age. He just doesn't care. It's like the justifications that pedophiles use for their depravity. The child was mature, or they're an old soul. But to quote Slow and Stowe again, being mature for your age doesn't change your age. The Immortal doesn't care that Kate is too young. He only cares that she's legal. She's a vessel that he can dump his trauma and wet his dick in. He's sleeping with her for the same reason Bojack Horseman tried to sleep with Penny in the episode Escape from L.A. Bojack's ego was bruised from her mother Charlotte rejecting his advances, and when her 17-year-old daughter offered herself to him, Bojack told her to go to bed and then left his door open. He, a 50-plus-year-old man, would have slept with a 17-year-old girl just to make himself feel good. Never mind Penny would have regretted the incident years later and been severely traumatized by it. Bojack is so selfish and broken, he only cares about what makes him feel good, regardless of who it hurts. And Immortal is exactly the same way. At Kate's funeral, he tells Black Samson that he's loved others who died, but Kate is different. And I don't think the writers understand exactly what that means. In a flashback, it's revealed that Immortal was Abraham Lincoln, which means he could have returned after his assassination. It was 1865, for God's sake. He could have said he suspected someone was going to kill him and had a decoy just in case. One YouTuber pointed out that Immortal jumping ship as Abraham Lincoln means he's partially responsible for Jim Crow laws, but he was also married and a father. His wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, had bad mental health issues. She was even institutionalized after the deaths of her husband and 3 of their sons. So Immortal abandoned his country and his mentally ill wife because, well, she couldn't give him the cheap, toxic validation a firm 19-year-old ass could. Sucks to be her. Notice that Immortal talks big about it being an honor to be a guardian regardless of the sacrifice, but after he's killed by a Mark variant during the Invincible War, he decides he wants to retire with his Lolita fantasy. Fucking fraud. But Kate herself is no angel. She's a victim of grooming, but I need to emphasize that she's what TV tropes would call an asshole victim. During the Mark Cecil debate, Kate claims that Mark should have just followed orders. Meanwhile, she faked her death when she could have just quit, and she only came back for Immortal, who she's been fucking for only a few months at best. Rex, Eve, and Rudy are teammates she's known for years, and she had no problem leaving them behind. I'm not saying what she had with Rex was healthy, because it wasn't, but I think she only came back because she missed the toxic validation she got from Immortal, not for Immortal himself. Toxic validation that I don't believe is even based in truth. Kate claims she knows what it's like to die over and over because her clones are all the real her. Being that Kate loves to exaggerate and weaponize her trauma, I think her clones are the real her in the way a person's arms and legs are a part of them. If you cut off a limb, you experience loss, but loss is not the same as death. Saying that Kate has died multiple times is like saying Rex has died once because he lost his hand. I repeat, loss is not the same as death. Kate's trauma has obviously given her a superiority complex because she completely shuts down Shrinking Ray when Ray tells her she'll continue to die and Cecil will never care. Kate's response is to snap at Ray, not to lecture her. She's not lecturing you, you stupid asshole. She's expressing concern over you. Kate claims she went through just as much, no, more, than Rex and Ray. Ray calls BS because there's only one of her and Rex. They can't hide backup copies, which is 100% true, but it goes deeper. Dupli-Kate knows what it's like to be destroyed, not die, because, again, loss is not the same as death, in horrendous ways, but she'll never know what it's like to lose a body part permanently like Rex, and she'll never know the horror of having her only body fight to rebuild itself after crippling injuries. But she's so full of herself that she mocks Ray for quote-unquote falling apart after she's called on her BS. So, expressing concern for Dupli-Kate is lecturing her, and calling her on her bullshit results in mockery for almost dying permanently. Note that Kate didn't even really refute anything Ray said. She just said that her powers worked differently, mocked her, and lied further, saying she had just as close a call as her and Rex when she can hide a backup copy of herself in a safe house. It's official, Dupli-Kate is a shit excuse for a human being. She even lies to her brother, saying she and she alone saved the country from getting nuked, completely leaving out Rex and Ray. No, she got taken out of the fight soon after it started, but it should be noted that before she supposedly died, she begged Rex and Ray to help her, the very people she would end up dismissing and mocking a season later. This is why I don't believe her when she says she knows what it's like to die over and over. How can you believe someone who loves to exaggerate their trauma just so they can downplay another's because they enjoy feeling superior? Kate saying that she went through more than Rex and Ray would be like Debbie Grayson telling this little girl that she went through more when Nolan betrayed them all. But what makes Kate truly irredeemable in my eyes is her enabling of her brother. In Season 3, Episode 1, everyone save her Immortal truly believes Kate is dead, including her psychotic brother, Multi-Paul. Paul, who doesn't give a shit who's responsible for his sister's death and just wants to kill someone to make himself feel better, goes after Rex and would have killed him if not for Invincible. When Kate and Immortal arrive at the scene, Kate tells her brother to go. Her brother, who not only nearly murdered a teammate of hers for absolutely no reason, but who openly gloats over the fact. He wanted her brother to get away scot-free. Now this sounds rather familiar. Where have I heard this before? Oh yeah, Thraxa, when Mark just hugs his dad and cusses him out before flying away. Mark, you're going to prison. Grayson just flew away without even trying to make his father answer for what he did. Now I doubt Multi-Paul has a body count the size of Omni-Man's, but he's an assassin for the Order. Do not tell me he doesn't have innocent blood on his hands. He takes pleasure in the fact that he's killed for less than nothing. Can you imagine what the Immortal would say if he knew Mark just flew away, abandoning an entire planet to a potential Viltrumite invasion? He'd want Mark's head. But when Kate wants her brother to get away scot-free, nothing changes between them. I guess innocent life becomes a cold-blooded math equation to Immortal when it doesn't validate his hatred of Omni-Man. Oh, and he can stick his dick in Paul's sister. Immortal is not a hero. He's Bojack Horseman. He pretends he's a good guy, but what he truly cares about is cheap personal gratification at the expense of others. When Kate visits her brother in prison, we learn that Kate is basically Paul without the sadism. They're both selfish liars, and they both love to weaponize their trauma. Paul blames their father for giving them to the GDA. when their father went catatonic from being a single parent to self-replicating children. You can tell Paul knows this, but he lies because then he'd have to gasp, take responsibility for himself. He also claims the Order is superior to the GDA because they pay better, and they're honest about what they are. Well, Paul's half right. The Order is only after money and power and doesn't hide this, but they'll also never admit that they're addicted to money and power because they're sad, lonely, empty, and angry inside. So, in that way, Paul fits right in, because his true self is a sad, lonely, angry little boy. But Paul was not honest about why he wanted to kill Rex. He went from raving about how Rex killed Kate to how he let her die, and when it's revealed Kate's still alive, he simply gloats to Rex that he's killed for less than nothing. As I said before, the real reason he tried to murder Rex was just to make himself feel better, and probably to avoid the fact that he knows he himself was partially responsible for Kate's death for abandoning her at the GDA. There is no sweeter joy in someone like Multipol's life than taking his suffering out on others, no matter who it is. That's what the Order really gives him. He gets paid for what he really loves to do. He is not honest about who he is. I'll admit there was and probably still is unforgivable corruption in the GDA, but it is bettering itself over time with people like Cecil and Donald. Betterment, however, is a foreign concept to Multipol. He is completely satisfied with being a psychotic asshole so long as he's not a hypocrite. But he is a hypocrite. And let's face it, if the best you can achieve for yourself is not being a hypocrite while delighting in what an asshole you are, yeah, I'll take some hypocrisy every now and then. But not too much hypocrisy. Everyone in the Guardians naively buys Kate's bullshit about being older, or they just don't care. There are some people who should seriously know better. People like my favorite character, Cecil Stedman. Yes, that awkward moment when you realize that your favorite character has a lot more in common with one of your least favorite characters than you'd like. Cecil condoning Kate's grooming is no different than Debbie reducing slaughtered GDA soldiers to bullet holes and bloodstains in her upholstery. Don't get me wrong, I know exactly what Cecil's thought process would be over something like this. Kate's over the age of consent, Guardians are fragile enough as it is, and no one's dying. Yeah, no one's dying, but there are some things you should never condone. It's especially disgusting since, in my own personal headcanon, Cecil is a child of rape. Cecil cares about saving innocent lives, to the point where he gave up his own skin and permitted facial scarring to remember those he couldn't save, but even he isn't immune to the jaded corruption that's inevitable in bureaucracy, which, by the way, is not an excuse. There is no excuse for condoning Dupli-Kate's grooming, even if she is an asshole victim. I also have to mention Donald, too. Donald is my second favorite character. He is, to put it bluntly, an angel. He's died 39 times, given up 98% of his physical form, and will continue to selflessly sacrifice until he is no more. And he absolutely would have condoned Dupli-Kate's grooming, because even angels aren't perfect. It's heavily implied twice to the point where it may as well have been outright said that part of Nolan's mission was to see how compatible Viltrumites are with humans. Just as it appears that Nolan is about to kill Mark, he says that another 17 years is nothing. He can always start again, make another kid. In Season 2, General Telia asks why Viltrumites were breeding with other races when they believe in racial purity. Nolan confesses to Alan in Season 3 that there are less than 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left. However, I believe that the writers are in deep denial as to what this truly means. Nolan is a sexual predator. He groomed Debbie and practically raped her, because she never in a million years would have let him touch her if she knew what he was. Judging by how much they bullshitted us with Immortal being a sexual predator, I know the writers are going to completely gloss this over. They're going to focus on Nolan's redemption and remorse rather than his crime of rape. At the end of Season 2, Nolan tells Alan he wants to die, but then realizes he misses his wife. Not he hurt his wife, not he dismissed his wife, not he betrayed his wife. He misses his wife. It's all about him. In the comics, Debbie went back to Nolan, but that had better not happen in the show, or else they may just surpass Pretty Little Liars. Well, if the writers won't do the right thing, then it's up to the fans. Marzi, a fanfic author from AO3, wrote an Invincible fanfic where Debbie confronts Nolan about grooming and raping her. In this fic, she actually gets pregnant before Nolan's betrayal and gives birth to a daughter, but she's forced to leave with Alan after Angstrom Levy's attack. I'm going to read a portion of one of the chapters to show how to handle a subject like this the right way. I want answers, Nolan. You aren't giving me that, so you're just one more unknown I have to deal with. Fuck, why was she being so goddamn accommodating? He had no problem throwing his problems at her. Yes, I prefer you gone. The word unknown almost seemed to make him shrink for a moment. You know me, he had insisted in their house before he left. You know me. What was it she was supposed to have known? What the hell had he thought she was capable of responding with that would have made him feel better about himself? What do you want to know? Now, just like that, she leaned back into her chair, trying to give herself a bit more distance. You're asking. I asked before, she reminded him. There's no going back to who I was with Viltrum. I know that now. Debbie didn't. All right, why do they care? What? The suddenness of her turn apparently caught him off guard. Viltrumites, you dragged Mark into this mess, made him an enemy of an empire, but why do they care about my daughter? She hasn't done anything. He could see him hesitate, preparing to correct, to edit, to lie. Her jaw nearly hurt from her teeth starting to grind together. Not even one fucking word after you offer. I don't know why I expected anything different. There aren't a lot of us left. It was her turn to stare in confusion. Barely 50. Well, less now after Thraxa. Finding a species that was compatible with Viltrumite DNA was my main reason for coming to Earth. He had wondered why he had bothered playing house, why he had stuck with her. He was just idling and wanted a distraction. Pet. A fleeting bit of amusement before he burned her world down, but apparently not. He didn't seem to know what to make of her sudden silence. Debbie? She had come back. After walking away from an arrogant dick, she had come back, like winning the worst sort of lottery twice in a row. How close had he been to grabbing someone else, playing another round of eeny, meeny, miny, mo with her species until one stuck around? Getting someone to open up their legs for him had been his real purpose, and wasn't it the universe's greatest fucking joke that the woman whose college friends had voted most likely to sleep her way to the top had tripped onto him? She pressed the back of her shaking hand to her mouth and tried to concentrate on the present. She had wanted to scrub her skin off once or twice since he had revealed himself a liar. She had had a murderer wrapped around her, inside of her, but now it was somehow worse. He had always intended to use her, exploit her body as a test run for the subjugation of her planet. Once he had confirmation they were compatible, was there a quota he was supposed to meet? Apparently, he still wanted to hit it if the rapid arrival of his second son was anything to go by. What great importance was Earth if he could just keep making babies wherever he landed? He pressed on, words oddly hesitant, almost shy. It needed to happen with someone. I'm glad it happened with you. Needed, she snapped, some floaty, nauseous bubble of rage welling in her chest, almost making her vibrate. She tried to breathe, to level out her voice. There was a toddler sleeping a few feet away from them. If only her leg wasn't fucked up. Now that she could hurt Nolan, she could call out to Alan. He would rejoice in the chance to beat up a Viltrumite. None of this needed to happen. My orders at the time seemed unavoidable. And when you kept fucking me after I got pregnant, what was that? All the different ways they had touched and held each other which would never have resulted in a child. He didn't even hesitate. You're my wife. Don't you fucking call me that, not after you tell me I was a goddamn petri dish. She needed to keep breathing or she was going to pass out. I didn't have to marry you. She laughed, or maybe she dry heaved. It wasn't part of my mission, he insisted. I wanted to. He hesitated, eyeing her a moment before seeming to work up the courage to continue. You had her. He almost sounded hopeful. What? She gripped the edge of the table, trying to cling to something that might keep her grounded to her body. You chose to have her. Her daughter. Hers after everything else that had been destroyed. Hadn't it, just for a moment, felt like a rebellion against the loss? Apparently she was still losing. I didn't want you to take anything else from me. How convenient for you I keep giving you what you're after anyway. I didn't plan for her. It almost sounded like he was begging. But what was it that he didn't think she was getting? You did for Mark, and you didn't even want it, just following orders. No wonder he had been so goddamn distant after their son had been born. The years it had taken for him to even bother trying to show up for school or Little League events. How long it took before he started asking them about their day rather than just spouting off what was going on in his. You wanted kids. And if I hadn't, she hissed, you'd have left me and found someone else who made it easy? Or maybe all that effort wouldn't be worth it and you just rape me instead. Thank God I made it so fucking easy for you, huh? You got to act like there was nothing wrong. No, he looked surprised, almost angry at her words. No, it wouldn't have come to that. I never wanted something before, not the way it was with you. I wouldn't have done anything to risk what we had. Risk? You threw everything away in a fucking instant. You were just following orders. Whatever I thought we had was worth jack shit to you. I miss you." He tried not to gag. "No, I'm just some security blanket. What was it about me, huh, Nolan? 20 years I thought I had left an impression, but at the end of the day, you don't know anything about me. What I wanted. You thought—" She did laugh then. "You thought I would sit back and let you destroy my planet, my sun, and now I'm just something you cling to make yourself feel better. And when you left me behind, you just did it again, stuck your dick in someone because you realized it felt nice and you had already been told to do it." He was barely breathing, starting to get lightheaded. She was so sick of him rewriting her life, taking something that had meant something to her and just twisting it into something unrecognizable. "You've never had a goddamn want or desire in your life. You just do what you're fucking told. So go." He stared at her, doing the opposite of what she wanted by becoming so still, rooted. "I might not have come to Earth with the best intentions, but I've changed. So I'm supposed to be grateful you had an epiphany, that you're better, that you feel bad now? I'm not allowed to be angry? It's not like you're even fucking sorry." For all the vitriol in her words, she wasn't quite yelling. Had to keep it down. Best not wake the kids, or have Alan come barreling into the middle of something she did not want to have to explain. "I am, for lying to you, for not stopping before I hurt Mark. Anything else? Are you goddamn sorry for anything else?" I I know I hurt a lot of people. For using me, Nolan, my life, my body. You were barely even there for Mark as a father." She laughed again, painful little barks that felt like glass breaking in her lungs. "Another fucking win. Your incubator also served as a babysitter. It's not what I think of you. You don't think of me. You're a selfish monster, a fucking parasite. Go on, Nolan. Tell me what it is you want me for that isn't sex or to look after your kids while you go off and pretend to be a hero." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. "You've never done anything for me. All you do is use me. So just fucking leave. Go take care of that kid of yours. I can't imagine what excuse you have about how that needed to happen. I I have all the goddamn answers I care for right now." Debbie shoved herself away from the table, leg twinging, but it didn't collapse beneath her, and the brace clicked into place. She grit her teeth, hoping to keep the scorching feeling in her lungs at bay, the tears that were so eager to wash her face, how much it hurt, as if the nerves were being torn from her body like roots from hard-packed earth. Being lied to, kept like a goddamn accessory, a pet, had hurt. To have been cast aside as lesser only to hear about him running off and doing it all again, except he hadn't done it again because he finally found someone he actually cared about. It had always been his job to fuck his way through the galaxy. How fucking stupid she had been, all those years ago, pretending like she was the one who had given him another chance, that she was making a choice, that he just needed a little more time to figure Earth out, that maybe there was more to him, she just made it easy. How was there no universe where she had walked away from him? This was what, her third, fourth time trying to put him behind her? Could she ever get away from him? Can I just say how much I love the line, "Tell me what it is you want me for that isn't sex or to look after your kids while you go off and pretend to be a hero"? It just sums Nolan up so well. He's a much better person than before, and he's still despicable as fuck. Like Debbie, Andressa was groomed by Nolan. It's not that hard to decipher what he told her and what he withheld, being that he oh so charmingly labels his atrocities as mistakes to his own son. She knows he's killed, but the circumstances and the body count, that she's completely ignorant of. She doesn't know he betrayed and murdered the Guardians, people who considered him a friend. She doesn't know he used his own son as a meat grinder, and she sure as shit doesn't know he came within a hair of killing his own son. Thraxans seem to be very forgiving and don't hold grudges the way humans do. But do you think they're that forgiving? No, because that wouldn't even be forgiveness. That would be apathy. If Andressa was told the whole truth and chose to stay with Nolan anyway, it would mean she just didn't give a shit. It would make her a villain, and she's not. She's a victim. Also, how much do you want to bet that Nolan forgot to mention that the Viltrumites would kill any child they had, that they would kill her? It looks like she does know when Nolan lures Mark to Thraxa, but I highly doubt Nolan told her before they got together and had Oliver. He, like Debbie from Irrespective said, just stuck his dick in someone else because it felt nice. She's wrong that he had Oliver due to his orders, or else why would he be afraid that the Viltrumites would kill him for being inferior? But that doesn't make the circumstances of Oliver's birth any less abhorrent. Nolan got a taste of love and affection on Earth and wanted to taste it again, even under false circumstances. He only cared about what made him feel good, no matter who it hurt. Huh. Immortal gives Mark a lot of flack for being like his father, but he should take a good look at himself. A powerful millennia-old white male grooming a vulnerable young Asian woman. Where have we heard that before? While I won't be reading any more fic today, I would like to mention another story that Marzi wrote called Duplicity, where Andressa learns from Debbie and Mark exactly what Nolan did on Earth, and she leaves him. That was very cathartic to read. Thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section and press that subscribe button. Also, check out Slow and Stow's videos and Marzi in the description.